There's an old saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, as we head into the second crown jewel of the season and the last race before the summer break with a $30 bounty on his head. Can anyone stop Travis Beckner from making it 6 in a row? We'll find out here as we're here at Lucas Oil Speedway for round number 12, and like I mentioned, the second crown jewel of this season. My name is Finney Nakuna, here with Connor Horn as always, bringing you the action here from Lucas Oil. Connor, 100 laps for tonight, should be a fun one as always.
This should be a fun one. Very unique track to have a 100-lap race at for the Virtual 100. This should be pretty fun. See these drivers try to get $30 from Beckner, but $50 for the winner. If Beckner wins, he gets $50. That's great. But if Beckner, with that bounty on his head, finally cannot get his 6th win in a row, it's $80 to the winner. Someone's got to knock him off that top step. We know there's drivers in this field that can do it if they just put a perfect race together, a clean race together, and a smart race together, and they have more time than ever to do that with a 100-lap feature tonight. So for those guys who are usually rowdy trying to get to the front because they only have 50 laps, well, you can't make that excuse. You got plenty of time to get up there and try to battle the 28 for the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the man everyone is trying to beat at the moment here. Travis Beckner getting some last-minute practice in. As always, usually out there on the racetrack getting it done. Again, everyone's going to have him circled as the man to beat. Extra money on the line for beating him and getting done. And even just his accomplishment, 5 wins in a row in almost any series is a very solid feat. He's had some stiff competition as well. Those wins have not been easy for anyone that's watched all the wins he's gone through. He's had to fight hard. He hasn't been leading, hasn't really dominated a whole lot of these races really until till the later part of the race. So he's definitely a hard-fought earned victory for him in most of the rounds, but we'll see now finally someone's going to be able to take it to him.
And we'll see if anyone can. I said he was in a 28. He's actually in a 27, but he's still just as fast as ever. 5 wins in a row. And it's not like his wins, obviously his wins haven't been scattered around. He got that first one back a month and a half ago at Eldora, and he hasn't looked back. Eldora, Port Royal, Williams Grove, Lincoln, I-55, and now we're at Lucas Oil. He has not been really able to be conquered at all so far. I mean, you look at his Eldora win, he led the most laps. You look at Port Royal, he led the most laps with 20. Williams Grove, most laps led. Lincoln Speedway, different story. Dalton Kane dominated that race. Beckner took it at the end after Kane hit the wall, but last week, I-55, he didn't get away from Jacob Cannon very easily, but he led 45 laps of that race. He has been a force to be reckoned with, and it's going to be the same thing tonight. But this is going to be a little bit different of a task. You can't run the wall. We've seen a lot of races this season where the track, migrates to the top, and you got the right rear just bouncing off the outside wall. You cannot do that at Lucas Oil. It gets flat around the top part of the racetrack. So if you jump a little bit too high, you're going to have your left front in the air, and you're really going to be struggling for grip and losing some track position as Carter Coop goes second on the board behind Ryan Zabot. But very unique track, very flat around the bottom. We probably won't see the way bottom be very good until this track gets completely used up for the most part, as Clayton Johnson tries to use it in qualifying. But really that middle line is where the sweet spot's going to be to start. Then we'll get further up the track, and you'll just see how high these guys can push it up the track by the time the track's used up, as Jordan Martin goes top of the board, tied with Clayton Johnson on time at 13.949.
Yeah, looking to see if he can get up there. Of course, he's actually going to be facing EOL in the feature race, so his qualifying time is not really going to matter, but I think he just, for the bragging rights, wants to get up there. And actually will tie Jordan Martin to the thousandth of a second. Martin will get it by, I guess, a 10,000th of a second, a smaller fraction there for him. That's incredibly close to the top. We'll see if someone can break the ice and pass both of them up near the top of the board. Ed Robertson goes up to 10th. Casey Borgmeyer, solid effort for him at so far up in 5th. A couple more drivers trickle onto the racetrack,
including Travis Beckner, but a 13.949 is the time to beat. We saw a 9.06 from Zabot in practice, the fastest time. He was not able to back that up. We'll see if Beckner can do a little faster, or see if Jordan Navarro can qualify near the front again. Up to 6th, not as good as last week, but still pretty darn good, as Beckner's going to rip the bottom of the racetrack. A 14.003, we'll see what he can do in turns 3 and 4. He's going to kind of get the second lane going. You watched a little high out of 4. Is it fast enough for provisional pole? No, a 14.101. He will not be on pole for even any of the heats, so maybe a little surprising, as he's got the helmet cam on tonight. Saw a preview of that last night after the area All-Star race. You could see a little bit, and you could see really you get a good idea of where he's looking. If he's looking towards the wall, looking towards the bottom of the racetrack, just where his eyes are focused forward to get through the corner best as possible. See if there's anything happening ahead of him, stuff like that. As Jacob Cannon, I don't know if we have his on board this week, but we know he's always the one who's going to battle for the victory. He's going to battle hard with Beckner, Kane. Those are the guys that are always mixing it up. As he crosses the line, his first lap is a 13.995, puts him in about 5th.
Yeah, up near the top, probably not as high as he'd like to be. He's only 6,000s off Jacob York, who's currently sitting in 4th. Beckner looking to be in 7th, only as high as at the moment. And we'll see if he'll drop any further. There's a couple drivers yet to qualify, but for Cannon, across the line for him, little shake of the wheel, satisfied. Actually, doesn't look that satisfied in the camera, but I'm sure he's definitely very satisfied with that performance up on provisional pole, unless someone were to change it. Jacob York out there, I believe he's completed all his laps. Bryce Senezek out completing his run, and I think with that, as it looks like Jacob Bell will be not getting out on the racetrack, be ending qualifying, it seems.
And I don't think Jacob Cannon was happy with that lap. I mean, I saw him, you saw on the onboard going down the back straightaway. He got his right rear up into the wall, scraped it just a little bit, scrubbed a little bit of speed, but clearly that was going to be a flyer of a lap if he didn't do that. And unless Jacob Bell gets out there and lays on a flyer, it's going to hold on for provisional pole, at least pole for heat number 1. He's going to have to race for it to keep it. It's going to be a pretty stacked heat. I think he's going to have to go against Clayton Johnson and Travis Beckner if everything holds the way it is. So maybe not the people he wants in that heat, but it should be fun for us.
It definitely will be fun for us. And yeah, so we should be expected to have 3 heats for tonight, as it has been the last couple of weeks. We had Jacob Cannon, Clayton Johnson, Travis Beckner, and Jordan Navarro all in the same heat. That's definitely going to be a very interesting one to watch. And as we tick under half a minute, it doesn't look like Jacob Bell will be getting out there. So that'll be as it stands. So that'll be definitely fun to watch. Second heat, it'll be Jane Freiberger, Jacob York, Ryan Zabot. So it's a couple interesting stacks in orders here. And here's the second half of the field lineup. Borgmeyer pushed back to 11, Senezek Swan, and a couple others as they trickle on down. But qualifying going to be complete here, and we'll get ready for the first of our 3 heats in just a moment here.
Yeah, this should be a pretty fun one. Like I said, this track is a little bit different from the other tracks you've been to. You cannot run that wall. You cannot get away with bouncing the right rear and just kind of skating it all around the corners to get that speed off the corner and through the center. You can't go up there, so you're going to have to improvise just a little bit, and I'm interested to see how much different the racing will be because of that. You don't really have to throw big sliders, but from what I experienced in the practice session from earlier, that groove is going to migrate up high. It's very hard to get the bottom part of the racetrack working once this track gets worn down, and we'll see if it gets even more worn down than what I saw, but I think the slider is going to still be pretty heavily utilized, but the penalty, you know, it's not just hitting the wall, but it's kind of going all four wheels off the ground and into the wall, so we could see some major crashes if we see a slide job gone wrong like we saw last week with Clayton Johnson.
Yeah, and that's the last thing we want to see, although it definitely is going to be entertaining at least see what happens here in Heat 1. Starting on pole for Heat number 1, Jacob Cannon in the 93 machine. Next to him, Clayton Johnson in the 225. He'll actually be getting an EOL in the Heat, so he'll be dropping on back. Moving on back to third, Travis Beckner in the 27 machine. Next to him, Jordan Navarro in the 96. Ryan Swan, he'll line up in the 20 machine in 5th. Joseph Swan will be lined up in the 1 machine in 6th place, and Jacob Bell doesn't look like he's going to be joining us for this heat either. I'm not sure if he's in the server or not, or that's an issue with that.
I believe he is in the server, just maybe not deciding to race in this heat, but I guess that'll help Clayton Johnson. Keep him on the bottom maybe if they decide that's the longest line, or maybe he'll just stay on the top. But either way, one less he's got to get through possibly.
Yeah, waiting for it. Go ahead.
It's just a good break for Navarro and Swan. They get to move up a row. Maybe Navarro can challenge Cannon in the turn 1. We know the restart zone is the red wall at the end of the outside red wall. You know, there is a crossover point entering turn 3 that we can visibly see. That's when the restart zone starts tonight. So we always see some games being played really in the heats, not so much in the main event, but the heats are where drivers who start on provisional pole for their heats really try to game the system and figure out when they can go and when's the best time to go. And sometimes the guy in second's able to time it and call their bluff. Could be a chance to do that here.
Yeah, as they work their way to the pace line, you can see everyone running on the top lane, kind of just around where that berm is, where it separates and flattens out. You were talking about it before. Very unique part of this track, because pretty much all other tracks are racing up against the wall. Slightly smaller one in 3 and 4, so they'll be running a little bit closer there, so slightly asymmetrical in that regards to the way the turns are placed out. So drivers have to keep that in mind and try to find, you know, where that line is, where that outside line is, because, you know, you don't have that wall as a reference point. You kind of just have the loose dirt where it'll be kicked out to. That'll be the best reference point you have as pace track goes flying off on the exit of turns 1 and 2. And these drivers are going to fly on down here, down the back straightaway. Cannon in control of the field. 8-lap heat. First of 3, getting ready to go. And there he'll go through the middle of 3 and 4, as he always does. Green flag in the air here for Heat 1.
Jordan Navarro was not ready for Jacob Cannon to get the jump he did, and he got into Beckner. He gets booted. Clayton Johnson gets damaged. Joseph Swan takes the biggest hit. He's hard into a wall. The tires in turns 1 and 2. He's going to try to get it off track. No, he's not going to get off track, but he does reset, so no caution. So Cannon, Beckner, 1-2. Navarro off track, I believe, as well.
Yes.
But that really was a frantic start. So it's Cannon, Beckner, Johnson, Swan left in this heat.
Yeah, big for Ryan Swan. Moves up a spot here, trying to catch up to the leaders, but they're starting to break away. And now it's a race between Cannon, Beckner, and Johnson. Again, Johnson facing an EOL in the feature, so his result doesn't completely matter in this. I'm sure he just wants to try to race these guys and at least beat them on the track if he can. But taking a look at Travis Beckner here, he's fighting to see if he can start on pole.
Beckner's just kind of trying to wrap the middle part of the racetrack. You can see Jacob Cannon kind of entering higher, bringing it down to the bottom on corner exit. So we'll see that line work for a little while, but you can see how high he enters compared to Beckner, who just sends it to the bottom, but Cannon kind of cuts it a little lower on corner exit, and it's just not quite working for Beckner. Cannon's able to get huge runs off the corner by doing that, but their times are still similar while doing that, but Cannon just a touch faster as he went way up the track that time, and he cuts it right back down before Beckner gets there. But I think that Beckner line actually worked that line. He was 0.3 faster last time by.
See Cannon getting awfully close to the wall there on the exit. And whoa, Beckner, a big dive to the inside of Cannon here, heading to the white flag. One more lap to go. Can Beckner make a move on the 93?
Cannon saw that line wasn't quite working to get him away from Beckner, so he's just going to run the bottom and try to defend this one. And I think, barring a slip-up, he has it.
And there we go, gets to the outside, 27 chasing him down, but it's not going to be enough. Jacob Cannon, slight fist on there, is happy with that. I'm sure he's happy with that more so than in qualifying. Gets the win, and he'll be starting on pole for the feature race.
That's job 1 finish, just getting the provisional pole. And he almost gave it away. Like I said, he started running a little bit too high for what the track was giving him, and Beckner was making great time on the bottom of the racetrack, and he knew he had to defend at that point. He was able to do so. Nothing Beckner could do once the 93 kind of took his line away.
Yeah, and we typically see that in Heat 1, you know, usually you're bottom feeding or near the bottom at the very least, and as the heats go on, as the track gets worn up, slowly migrate up towards the top. And speaking of the heats, go on to heat number 2. Starting on pole for this heat will be Jaden Freiberger in the number 24 machine. Next to him, Jacob York. 97 car will be starting next to him in second place. Moving on back to third, Ryan Zabo lined up in the number 10. And then next to him, Casey Borgmeyer in the 101 machine. Back in fifth is going to be Ed Robertson in the 64. And last but certainly not least for heat number 2 will be Casey Lakatos in the number 13 machine.
Trying to pay attention. I don't believe there's anyone in this heat that has any sort of penalty, so all these drivers will start, I believe, where they need to. And we got 6 in this one, had the 6 in the last one, ended with 4. We'll see what happened at a turn number 2 next time by. Just kind of a stack up with Beckner and Navarro a little bit, kind of caused what happened to Joseph Swan, and he had the biggest hit of all, but and what type of restart we get this time.
Before we go green, I got a message from Jacob Bell heading back to the Tampa airport, sadly, and won't be able to make it back in time. So, fortunate to hear that. We're looking forward to seeing Jacob Bell. Has been getting better at his performances this season, but hopefully he'll be back for the rest of the races and in time. But we'll look at the 24 take the green as we are live for heat number 2. Driver, a decent run there. Jacob York and Zabo fighting for second place.
That run off the top is going to get York clear for the time being for that second spot. He brings it down a little bit lower just to defend Zabo a little bit, but Freiberger got enough of a jump where he's clearing away for that top spot, and he's going to start running right around the bottom of the racetrack. Got to watch those white tires. They will destroy your left front and the front of your car, but if you can make it work down there while no one else can, it could be a key to success later in this race.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if we see someone at some point tonight hit those tires because it's right up against the racetrack. So fairly easy to hit if you're not being careful or getting a little bit too opportunistic. And speaking of what, you can see in the background there, Borgmeyer trying to make a move, trying to look up the inside of Zabo, but can't quite get it. Zabo also coincidentally looking up the inside of Jacob York.
I think the middle of the racetrack would be the better line right now, but Freiberger is doing a great job just wrapping the bottom nice and tight with his car, getting it really jerked sideways and able to get that straight line exit off the corner, and he's just flying away from Jacob York, who's kind of holding up Zabo and Borgmeyer a little bit as they kind of go a little bit lower than the 97. Just really hard to pass at this point with the track they have right now. If York holding that middle line, just keeps getting good enough runs off the corner. Now Zabo's in trouble. He almost hit the wall. Here comes Borgmeyer.
Yeah, open up the door. Here comes Borgmeyer, who's slight contact there with the number 10 machine. And Borgmeyer's got to try again, looking in turns 1 and 2. He's keeping it probably the lowest out of anyone at the moment, but for Freiberger up ahead, no real competition from behind.
Yeah, he got away on that initial start. He's been smooth sailing. Now he's going to start. At this point, he does have enough room to kind of test some lines. He moved up to the middle of the racetrack that time by, and he's still making good time on York. Tapped the wall again a little bit, but I think it's all clear to the line.
And to the line, Freiberger Cross will win. He number 2. Then it'll be York, Zabo, Borgmeyer, Robertson, and Casey Lakatos.
Only change her position there was Lakatos getting at Robertson, and that really happened on the initial start. That's Heat 2 done for the Virtual 100, and got one more to go. A few more hitters. Jordan Martin, second in the points, will be on provisional pole, but, you know, Dalton Kane always shows speed. He'll start second. Connor Hughes will have, you know, 5th position for his heat. He'll have an EOL, as will Dalton Kane in this heat, though. So both those drivers go to the back, and a big opportunity for Jordan Martin to try to start 3rd for the main event.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do here with Jordan Martin lined up in the 17, you know, in 1st, and Dalton Kane 2nd in the 7. Carter Coop lined up in the 52 in 3rd place. Next to him, Bryce Senizak in 4th. Connor Hughes, you mentioned EOL for him in the 5 will drop back. And Christian DeBoer lined up to start 6th in the 56 car.
Sit DeBoer could do it in the 56. Get the start in front of, really, I guess, alongside Dalton Kane, possibly. Also interested to see what Carter Coop can do. Has not had the best of luck the past few weeks. It's a big race for Jordan Martin. Obviously, anyone who can knock down Beckner gets the money, but obviously with a double points race on hand, if Beckner wins this race, it's a 10-point buffer, around a 10-point advantage over Jordan Martin at least. So if there's any race, Jordan Martin needs to out-duel Beckner. If really anyone behind Beckner in points, if there's any chance to get that title away from him, you got to make inroads on him tonight.
Yeah, there's a chance to kind of reinvigorate the battle after this race will officially be at the halfway point of the season. As Fields in control of Jordan Martin, off and away he goes, and we are green here for heat number 3.
Or kind of messed up the start a little bit. Connor Hughes going to throw a slider for the 5th position, gets it immediately as Dalton Kane has already gotten to the 2nd position.
Wasting no time to get to the front, but Carter Coop coming back on him to the inside, looking inside turn 1. Kane on the outside, and Martin's loving this up in front.
Doing a great job right now, just trying to keep both of these drivers behind him. They battle, the better it's going to be, but I think Kane's a touch better on corner exit. Close enough to maybe have a look to the inside. Won't try to throw a slider in there, but a lot better through the center on exit compared to Jordan Martin.
Yeah, much better there, and gets a better run into turn 3 alongside door-to-door for position. Jordan Martin trying to see if he can hold off a charging Dalton Kane here.
Kane did a great job there wrapping the bottom. He's going to lose a little bit on exit, but overall a net gain. He's going to go try to force Martin up the track that time, and he did. A little bit of contact he gets off of Jordan Martin, gives him the spot back out of respect, and that brings Carter Coop right back to the 7.
Right back on him. He's going to go again. All 3 under a blanket, except that the 7 went up too high out of turn 2, hit the wall. Carter Cooper was hitting the tires there, trying to get to the inside. Couldn't quite get there. We'll have to try again. Dalton Kane stays in 2nd place. Martin still in the lead, but not safe yet.
Kane's faster, just really hard to make that pass at this point, and the top side's not quite there yet. It's not as far up the track as it could be. Got a good run off of turn 4, though, but he's going to dump back to the bottom of the racetrack. He just wrapped the bottom perfectly, and this is where I think he can pull a little bit of a slider on the 17.
That inside lane still very strong, very hard to fight, and there we go, back, crossover, again, side by side at the line, white flag in the air, Martin to the inside once more, Carter Kupo, a little bit of a tuck from behind, tries to look to the outside, Dolke tries to look back to the inside in 3 and 4, Carter Coop back to the outside again, for the win will be Martin, and into the wall goes Carter Coop, as Dalton Kane will take second place. Oh boy.
I don't think Kane appreciated the push he got through 3 and 4. That was a perfect the defense of a crossover by Jordan Martin out of turn 2, and then I think in a little bit in turn number 3, the 52 got into the 7's right rear, and I think the turn right out of the corner was a little bit of frustration with Carter Coop. So we'll see how that's ruled with the 7 already having the heat race at EOL. He might have more added in a few weeks' time, but for the time being, he'll start, I guess, in the 6th position.
As that race, as Heat 3 finishes up, we get ready for the main event here. Warm-up period for these drivers to get on the racetrack. And you can see everyone awkwardly exiting out of turn 2. As I think one of the only tracks where the pit lane is outside the track. I think the only one I can think of is the Chili Bowl. So that would be definitely something to watch out for if any drivers start exiting the track. That could potentially be a wreck in the making there.
The only advantage is that the track on the top is mostly flat, so you probably shouldn't see cars on track running that high out of turn number 2. Otherwise, they're probably they hit the wall if they run up there, and maybe they'll hit another car. We'll just have to see. But so it'll be interesting to see how in 100 laps this track develops. Like we said, they can't go much higher than what they're running even right now, like Sabo and Beckner are doing. And I'm just not sure once this track gets worn out if the bottom will be there, but we just have to see who's the first one to really test it. We saw good work being done on the bottom when the track wasn't worn out, but it'll be a different story once we get to the last quarter of the race.
Taking a look at the couple drivers we have for onboards here, we're looking at Travis Beckner, and he's got the camera strapped to his head. Driver's point of view from his simulator. Taking a look at Jacob Cannon as well, who we've usually been seeing near the front, and also Carter Coop there at a strong resurgence in that race. Unfortunately, ended up in the wall. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be coming back for vengeance.
Had good speed, though. Was able to keep up the 17 and the 7 there, so not going to be the start that he wanted in the 9th position. Could have easily been 6th or even 3rd, but a pretty decent start for the 52. But obviously, it's kind of early race chaos that we see. Maybe we don't see it because it's a long race, but you got to be able to avoid the chaos that usually happens in the first maybe 20 laps or so of any of these races.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things are going to be playing out. It's a fairly wide racetrack, I would say, so I would say there's a lot of room for these drivers to work with. That being said, though, I feel like they're all going to be going for the optimal line that's going to kind of keep them all close and tight together.
Yeah, this is one of those races, you know, even last week we saw how lap traffic could affect the outcome. It's going to be a whole different ball game in a race this long, where you're probably going to see some drivers unfortunately get lapped multiple times, and there's going to be a lot of battles in the mid-pack. You see it every week, and they're not going to lay over quite as easily. So as the leader, if it's Beckner, Zabo, Jacob Cannon, it's going to be a much bigger struggle, I think, tonight through lap traffic.
Definitely is. We'll see if that lap traffic will come into play here. And curious to see if we see any drivers, you know, we talked about that outside at turns 1 and 2 particularly, how it flattens out. If you're going to see drivers get punted out there and sent to, not necessarily into the wall, but sent off the racing line.
I think you're definitely going to see a little bit of one bad slide as a warm-up end.
Ryan Zaville comes flying into the camera almost. There's warm-up, here comes an end. We get ready to get this thing underway.
Exit stage right. I think one bad slide job, it's either going to send the driver getting slid into the wall, or the other driver is going to get right hooked and fly into the fence. So you got to be very careful. You got to make sure you're not just going to make an enemy and just shove someone off the racetrack, because they'll remember that much more than if you put them in the wall at another track or something like that, because it's going to be more consequential tonight.
Oh, we always know drivers have the best of memories, very long-lasting memories as well, if you do them wrong. And we've seen a couple drivers try to get their revenge at different points in the season, and they actually had to make a statement about calming things down just a little bit in that front.
And yeah, that's kind of why we saw so many EOLs last week. We've seen a few suspensions here and there throughout the season. It's been a rowdy bunch for majority of the drivers, but we'll see what we get tonight in our first 100-lap feature event, first crown jewel since I believe all the way back in maybe March.
Volusia, yep.
February.
Yep.
March, yes.
So that was first crown jewel event, and I believe that went to Tyler Gary. And I was actually I was really hoping that Tyler Gary was going to show up with a bounty on Travis Beckner's head, just out of nowhere, just come in, get his money, and get out of there. But unfortunately, no Tyler Gary tonight. But we have a very stacked field regardless.
Yeah, stacked field with obviously Clayton Johnson. He gets through the field in a frenzy. He has an EOL for this feature. So once again, we're going to see what he can do coming through the field tonight.
Taking a look at the drivers head out on the pace lap. And they're also going to get lined up in formation here for the pace lap, as they do for the Triple Crown event. Get them on the wide shot. There you go. In formation to get this thing underway, and as they get up in formation, take the time to honor and remember the brave servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives for this great country. All right, drivers lined back up 2 by 2, taking a look at the front few starters. We got Jacob Cannon again leading the field of green. Jaden Freiberger lined up in second place. Jordan Martin in third. Travis Beckner fourth. And Jacob York will be rounding out your top 5. Very solid top 5 formation. We'll see what they can do. We'll see who will be the one to get it done here. 100 laps are going to be on the board. We'll see who'll be finding out who'll be running away either $50 richer if it's Travis Beckner or $80 richer if it is literally anyone else. Looking to make it 6 in a row tonight. We'll see who can stop them as Jacob Cannon leads them down. We are green here at Lucas Oil Speedway. Flying out of turn 4 and across the line, Cannon and Freiberg with a solid lead, and everyone else still trying to find their place in line. Travis Beckner getting swarmed around the outside goes Dalton Kane.
Yeah, Kane got those outside, and now Beckner's kind of at a disadvantage here. Cannon, Freiberger, Martin got away from everything. Dalton Kane will too, but now it's looks like Zabo on the outside trying to get another position from Beckner, and obviously you'd think Beckner maybe trying to save some stuff with how long of a race it is, but you don't want to lose too much track position and get caught way further back than you want to be right now, and he's at danger of doing that. But now Zabo goes around the outside of Dalton Kane. Well, those top 3 just pulling away from the rest of the field. It's frantic 4th to about 14th at least.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely seeing a lot of drivers hanging back and saving tires. We've seen drivers save tires in the 50-lap races, and you imagine double that length. You got to save a little bit of your hardware because, there's not really tire changes in this series. You're expected to run with what you have till the end of the race. So Travis Beckner immediately dropping back. Whoa, big slide there from the 225 of Clayton Johnson. He wants to move forward. He doesn't want to lay back at all.
It just is, if on the off chance this goes green, it'll be interesting to see what prevail as the driver's going full send, trying to get track position like Jacob Cannon, who is far and away the fastest car right now? Or is it going to go into the hands of Travis Beckner, who's really trying to save stuff, but he's almost back to 13th position. It's the furthest back we've seen at 27, probably the entire season. Dalton Kane's not too much further up the road. He actually tapped the wall himself, so while saving tires, not saving the right side of the car.
Yeah, Alcatraz Zacata is charging on through on the outside. He's, I think, another driver that does not want to wait, wants to get up there, get that track position. And there's definitely something to be said. And you were talking about it before, you know, lap traffic. That's definitely something you got to kind of weigh in. You do not want to go a lap down, especially if this thing goes green for a while. It's so hard to get a lap back. Maybe you could argue Travis Beckner is able to do it, but he's already about, I won't say half a lap behind, but he is 5 seconds off the leaders.
It's a homogeneous dirt race or an oval next-gen race. It really just has that look of that right now, where you got the guys pushing around the outside, but the guys really trying to save the right front, just kind of wrapping the bottom of the racetrack like Dalton Kane and Travis Beckner just did there. And then you got guys who will block, trying to keep track position, but also trying to save tires. That causes stack-ups. It's just exactly what it looks like to me right now. It has that feel, and you can see the separation between the guys who are really saving and the guys who are really pushing. You got the top 9 have really separated from Carter Coop in 10th, and even further back to Moore, Kane, Beckner, and a few others back there. You got like 2 packs.
You can see the visual difference there. It really is like a next-gen race. You were not kidding. You got a main pack.
Oh, right. Sorry, how about Ryan Swan? In the midst of all this saving, he wants the race lead from Jacob Cannon.
Yeah, I think Cannon's seeing a lot of his other competitors, drivers like Travis Beckner, Jaden Freiberger, dropping near the back, and I think he's figured, okay, maybe now it's time, maybe let off the gas just a little bit, but keep the leader in sights. So he's still in second place, running strong. Casey Lacotte is up to third. Solid charge for him. Bryce Senizak, Jaden Freiberger, top 5, then Martin, Zabot, Johnson, York, and DeBauer. The field has completely changed. We have drivers like Navarro and Beckner near the back of this thing.
And honestly, there are definitely a list of drivers I'm sure Jacob Cannon's fine with letting go. I'm sure he's okay with letting Ryan Swan go. I'm sure he'd be okay with letting Lacotte and Senizak go. But you know, guys like Freiberger, Jordan Martin, Zabot, Clayton Johnson, those are the guys, if they get to the back of him, he's probably going to try a little bit harder to try to keep them behind, while he's probably fine with the drivers in front of him and around him pushing a little bit harder, knowing that that probably won't work for the next 85 laps.
And you can tell with the way Beckner's driving, he's not kicking out the back end, he's not stepping on the gas. Carter Coop a little bit more aggressive up ahead. He's running a very conservative line through these corners, but up ahead, Casey Lacotte is now up to second place around Jacob Cannon. It's going to be really interesting to see, like you mentioned, if this thing does go green, when are the drivers going to kick on the afterburners and start to climb back up through the order? I never really thought we would ever see really comers and goers for these races. We have seen that a little bit in the shorter stints, but I don't think anywhere to this degree what we're about to see.
Definitely not to this scale. You got drivers who started in the top 5 for almost outside the top 10. In Beckner's case, he is outside the top 10. Casey Lacotte, Ryan Swan, they started 10th and 14th. They're 1-2. Bryce Senizak started in the 12th position. You have Clayton Johnson, who started chucking on the field. He's up to the 8th position. How much is he going to begin to save after trying to get some track position? It's just a frantic race. It's definitely not something I've seen before from a dirt race on iRacing. It's just interesting as we're already a 5th through this race, gonna reach the completion of lap 20 next time by. And we're already seeing a little bit of lap traffic, maybe a straightaway away from Ryan Swan, and there is a lot of it as Jordan Martin's trying to get that 5th position.
Yeah, Ryan Swan there is coming out of turn 4, and sorry, that was turn 2 and into turn 3. And for reference, here is Jordan Navarro, and there is Ryan Swan. So the field almost up to the back, and the lap traffic, that's going to start to come into play here very, very early on. As you look further back, Ryan Zabot looking to make a move on Freiberger. Freiberger in behind Jordan Martin, and he seems to be satisfied with that at the moment. And Jacob York, we find him settled here. Cannon still in 3rd place, Carter Coop 11, Travis Beckner in 12th.
In this line, 5th to 10th, we're already seeing majority of the drivers kind of running as high as they possibly can around that top part of the racetrack. Beckner and Dalton Kane doing the same. So we've already seen majority of the field kind of abandon the bottom of the racetrack. Even Jacob Cannon, I'd say he's probably running the lowest out of majority of people, but almost everyone else has kind of migrated already towards the very top.
And further back here, some scraps for position. Casey Borgmark making a slide on Connor Hughes, moves up. Dalton Kane dropping all the way back to 15th. And again, one of those drivers, I think, just trying to save his stuff. We know the 7 has some speed and is usually near the front. There's Travis Beckner, the one we're all kind of keeping an eye on at the moment. Clayton Johnson, Carter Coop, looks like they've exchanged positions, and Carter Coupe now running a little bit more conservative on the top side.
Starting to see Beckner pull away from Dalton Kane. Those are two drivers I would assume they're pretty much on the same strategy of saving tires and going later, but there's a noticeable gap between the 27 and the 7, 2 cars worth and maybe over a second's worth, so that's something to note as well. And I'm also trying to pay attention to the leaders' times. Ryan Swan last time by ran a 15.1. Everyone in that pack with Dalton Kane kind of like 15.4s, 15.5s, so the pace is still fast for the 20. He's still faster and catching those drivers in behind. Jacob Cannon's not too far off that 20s time either, but he's still just a little bit more conservative with the rear, it seems.
Yeah, you can see for a lot of drivers, their best laps are 14.6, 14.7, and everyone's pacing themselves at the moment, either pacing themselves or wearing out the tire already. They're down to 15.2, 15.3s across the board.
I don't think Beckner was okay with the pace he was putting. He's starting to at least get some track position. Maybe not gaining on the leader, but he is starting to make some moves. He gave a little bit of a tap to Clayton Johnson last time by. He's up to 11th. He's on the bumper. Not really the bumper, but the rear of Carter Coupe for a top 10 position. Jacob York and Christian DeBoer just traded spots last time by for the 8th position.
Yeah, I think the last thing Beckner needs is to go a lap down. So I think that's the main priority, is at least stay on the lead lap if you want to pace yourself. But trying to come back from that is going to be very hard, as Ryan Swan's now going to start facing some lap traffic. That, I imagine, is going to slow down his pace. So there's a pass up ahead, or I thought I saw a pass. There we go. Jordan Navarro trying to make a move on Joseph Swan.
That is one of those battles for the 16th, 15th position, no, 16th position, right in front of the race leader. Swan, a little bit of front end damage, but at this point, you're to the rear of the field. I think if you're Ryan Swan, you need to start putting some of these guys' laps down. If you do start to fall off, you at least have to try to eliminate some competition if there is a yellow at any point. But ever since he got to the back of Ed Robertson, he's not really able to move to the bottom of the racetrack, kind of just stuck on this top side. And all of a sudden, Lakatos is running him down, and Jacob Cannon definitely running him down.
As they keep moving away, keep seeing change for position. Jordan Martin past Bryce Senizak, up into 4th. Then decent amount of separation to Jacob Cannon, who is starting to close back in on the leader. So he's got Casey Lakatos directly ahead of him for second. There you can see the white and purple machine of Ryan Swan just up the road. So definitely keeping him in his sights as we are just about a third of the way through this race.
Just wondering who's going to be the first one to jump over that cushion, jump to the flat on the top part of the racetrack. I haven't seen anyone do it yet, but eventually that top side's going to start wearing out. Pretty much everyone's running it still, so that is not going to end up working for much longer. And it's definitely going to be tough to pass without pulling a slide job. Swan just not able to get to the back, get to the inside of Ed Robertson. We saw him catch Robertson in 30 laps, and he's stood there ever since. He's now about half a second slower than Lakatos and Jacob Cannon, so it's almost a race to see who can effectively get through lap traffic the most efficiently before the guys who save their stuff start getting through the field. Because it's still a pretty big logjam 10th on back. Carter Coupe has been holding up Beckner for 10 laps or so.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if he really is holding up Beckner, or if Beckner's just kind of happy just to sit in behind him for now. Because with the way he dropped off the pace, he definitely has a lot of speed in that car, but I guess he's saving what he has for later on. As things start to get a little bit more heated around the track, Jacob York on the back of Ryan Zabot working on for 6th place, and then in behind them is Freiberger kind of leading the next real big pack of drivers. Whoa, and Beckner there in behind gets some moves to the inside, has the opportunity against Carter Coupe.
Yeah, I think he finally got a good enough run on Carter Coupe where he had to take it, and he really forced the issue with the slide job. Kind of forced Carter Coupe into a lip situation. Clayton Johnson throws a slider, says, "Oh, you can do that, I'll do you one better." But Beckner just gets the crossover to clear the 225 right before the entry to turn number 1. That was a tight moment. Maybe we'll see those two get through the field later. Meanwhile, Ryan Swan, he needs to go. First time he's looked to be inside of Ed Robertson since he got there. He's going to try his first slider, and he's going to get by his 64. Robertson looked inside but couldn't do it, so that's a big pass to make for the 20.
And in behind, there's Jacob Cannon trying to make a move on Casey Lakatos. He figures now he wants to lead back, or he's going to try to get second place. Goes back to the inside of Lakatos, who's trying to hang on. Ed Robertson also might be a thrown in his side. Lakatos some contact there to the outside of the 93.
I'm sure Lakatos probably won't be happy about that. Kind of did the same thing. Cannon kind of the same thing Beckner did, but he wasn't even clear of Lakatos. And Lakatos going to fight this back as hard as he can. Maybe try the slider back. A little bit too much slide. Didn't get it above the 93 like he needed to, and Cannon's got that second spot. And now he's about to have 2 cars in between him and Ryan Swan. Ryan Swan gets around Joseph Swan.
Imagine maybe a little bit of coordination there, but Jacob Cannon now setting his sights on the leader, trying to kick up the pace and getting going forward. And you can already see how used this racetrack is. We've been caution-free for almost half the race now.
And Beckner and Johnson just had contact last lap. Johnson threw a slider, got clear of Beckner, but Beckner kind of hit the back of the 225. And now Clayton Johnson's up to that 9th position, and I think Johnson got a little bit of left rear damage. Beckner, I think, got away with it cleanly, but no love lost between those two.
Yeah, I was saying is how used up this racetrack is. 50 laps of green flag running. These guys have really been compacting the track down. You can see how used it is on the entry. Exits have been a little bit better because everyone's been kind of taking a little bit easy on the exit. So I don't think that's why it's not as compact. But this is when those fresher tires, if you save them, I think is really going to come
on
to
the outside
advantage.
wall. Caution's out. First caution of the night, right at halfway, and it's Connor Hughes.
And Connor Hughes is going to be the first one to bring the pace down, and well, convenient timing on lap 49. Effectively, he's going to cut this race in half. 2 50-lap races here. So
much for the longevity, but he could not have had it any more perfect. Don't know if there's any contact for the 5 of Hughes, but definitely the first driver to get up out of the groove and spin it. Just couldn't quite see why.
Yeah, I'm trying to find here. I guess I passed here.
Looks like he was just running all on his own, and looks like he just got out of the groove and maybe tried to bail out to avoid the outside wall and just spun it out.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about, that little berm, that beam on the top side of the track, and hit the wall there, was offline there. You see him go up and over the top. And yeah, like you mentioned, just brought it to a stop to make sure he didn't get into the wall. So we'll slow down the pace. Well, it was arguably already pretty slow with the way these guys are running around here, pacing themselves. That's such a unique thing. I've never really seen that at a dirt track. But again, everyone thinking bigger picture, right? You don't want to push yourself too early. It's 100 laps. You don't want to use up your stuff. You want to save your stuff for later on and where it matters. And especially for moments like this when you get a caution that essentially bunches everyone back up.
Yeah, and guys like, guys who were pushing their stuff, maybe like Ryan Swan, maybe like Hayes Lakatos, they were hoping that would go green. It would have been a lot harder for those guys who were saving their stuff to get back through to them. But now they get a reset pretty much at the halfway point, and it gives them a lot easier of a chance to get through those guys again.
Take a look. Ryan Swan be the one to lead him down. Let's see. Now it's effectively coming from an endurance race, most likely to a sprint. 50 laps essentially left to go. Ryan Swan leading them back down. Jacob Cannon, we'll see how quickly, if he can, try to take the lead, but he's got Jordan Martin in behind him. Oh, and then behind him, 3 wide here. Clayton Johnson wasting no time.
Lakatos already kind of getting used up a little bit. Him and Lakatos had contact 3 wide. Zabo, Freiberger, Lakatos all making contact in the turn number 1. Beckner somehow not really in the vicinity of all that. Lost a lot of track position through that. Just stuck behind it all. While Cannon tries to get second. Jordan Martin gets second. He tried to get the lead. Jordan Martin got to his outside.
And here's that fight there as you saw Calamity almost happen there as some drivers jumped the berm, and there's Calamity in behind. Jacob York around, several drivers around. Dalton Kane, tire destroyed. And the caution will fly once more.
Zabo, big damage. DeBoer, big damage. I think Dalton Kane definitely got the worst of it.
And we
saw Jacob York get turned first.
Oh, got tapped from the 10 behind as he was slowing up for Freiberger. Beckner getting a couple pieces of that, but I think Kane got the worst.
Beckner is going to pit, though. So clearly he had enough damage where he felt he had to come down the pit.
Yeah.
He can take tires.
I mean, he might as well, I feel, just to better be safe than sorry. But here's another view of what happened, and then there's 7 gets in the back. Oh, he hit the tire. We talked about someone hitting that at some point tonight, and unfortunately it was Dalton Kane that found it.
And he'll get the right front on, try to salvage what he can, but just who put that tire there? Perfectly hit it on the right front suspension, unfortunately, and Zabo, DeBoer get big damage out of that. Zabo can't escape what he, I believe, pretty much created, if I saw that right. I think York kind of tapped Freiberger, slowed him down a little bit, and Zabo couldn't quite slow down in time to avoid it. Then he ends up getting turned, and DeBoer, the brakes don't work in these things. Clobbers the tap.
Or take one more on board here from Casey Borgmeyer, who was somewhat able to avoid it as everyone was flying around him. Whoop, found the hole, and there he went on through. It was a great wreck of wings there for Borgmeyer, but the field gets lined up back together once more, and Travis Beckner will be near the back of it.
Yeah, Brian Swan will be starting first, and Jordan Martin in second, but Ryan Swan went super early, and Jacob Cannon's going to get the jump to second because of it.
See how things play out. Ooh, Freiberger a little bit wiggly in the background. And now trying to get back up to speed. Couple charging cars, namely which Clayton Johnson trying to throw that yellow out the window. He's effectively back up here, ready to go.
And it's just going to be a really tall task for Beckner to get back through all of those cars. So $80 for the winner right now would be on the line. Car in the wall. It's Casey Lakatis, who has big damage. Unfortunately, he was running so well, and now his day's effectively over. No yellow.
Fortunate to his day after running up to second place. But Ryan Swan trying to see if he can keep command of this lead. He's got the track position. Even with everyone punched back up together again, he's still trying to keep it on going. How much tire does that 20 have left?
That's enough for the time being, where Jacob Cannon really hasn't had a look to the inside. It's really the first time he's ran low, but the last time he ran down there, he lost second to Jordan Martin, but Martin struggling a little bit more on this restart and able to take advantage of the 93, struggling around the bottom of the racetrack. But you can see Ryan Swan, I don't know how much he has left. He's really hanging the rear of that car out on the exit of every corner, while Travis Beckner fighting to stay in this hunt, trying to extend that bounty into next month, basically, trying to get back into the top 10, past Borgmeyer.
They're trying to make it work.
Battle for the lead.
Battle for the lead up ahead. Ryan Swan, Jacob Cannon. Cannon trying to take it with the slide job, and will push the 20 out of the way. Does Ryan Swan respond? He's trying to. He's following in his line, following in his footsteps, but can't quite get there.
I think if he wants to keep track position, he's got to try a slider, but Jacob Cannon actually went back to the bottom of the racetrack, so Swan maybe tries to get a run around the top, but I think Cannon's got a little bit too much tire left for Swan to really fight him as hard as he wants to, but I don't think Swan will appreciate that. First attempt Cannon really had at a pass and used him up a little bit for sure, but he isn't pulling away quite yet. Oh, or Martin jumped the curb, jumped the berm a little bit, excuse me, and lost some time, but has a lot of ground back to Clayton Johnson at fourth.
Clayton Johnson falling back and forth between Fiber, Jacob York, and Jacob York, who was just in an accident. He's ready to go. Hasn't lost really any speed. Who gets right up behind the 24. Fiber almost pushes him over the berm. That could have been dicey.
That's, I guess that's a tactic you can use if you want to wreck your competitor, but I just won't recommend it. Really, as Swan lost a lot of ground that time by. We're starting to see more and more drivers really pushing the limits of what they can do up there. And now we're seeing Clayton Johnson. He's really been the first driver since this track got so worn up to try the way bottom of the racetrack. Had a decent run through the center as Freiberger jumped it. I think York jumped it. Everyone's really testing the limits, what they can do up there.
I mean, I would say it's definitely possible to make something work up there, but it's definitely going to be risky to hook that car into the wall and end your day. So definitely a fine line there. You see a couple guys really getting up there, and a slide there at the bottom of the screen. Travis Beckner around Carter Coupe.
He's got to go. I mean, he's running out of time quickly if this keeps going green. He has a long ways to go. He ran a 7.96 last time by, which was faster than Jacob Cannon, but that's going to give him the reset he needs. Ed Robertson went around. He was 16th.
Round he goes, and we'll get back going. I think should keep on the lead lap, but let's take a look and see what happened. Was fighting with Ryan Zabot, who we got major contact. Ooh.
Cut him off
on entry.
Like Zabot thought maybe he was kind of hoping he was clear of Robertson, or that Robertson would go lower, and he just kind of came across Ed Robertson's nose, and Robertson saved the 10's car, kept him straight. Robertson went around in the aftermath.
Yeah, it's that worked out for Zabot, not so much for Ed Robertson.
No, and I know Ed Robertson won't be happy about that either. There's been a lot of aggressive moves. This might be the hardest track we've seen passing-wise all season. And you're seeing, I don't think that wasn't necessarily an attempt to pass. I think just Zabot thought he would have the spot to the bottom, and he didn't. This gives Ryan Swan another, at least one more chance at the 93, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with what Ryan Swan has shown, he's definitely got a car that can keep in the top 5 should things remain, unless things get really spicy here. So he's definitely got a quick car underneath him. It's just a matter, can he hang on, especially as these cautions or these resets. Whoa! Ed Robertson goes flying onto the racetrack. And I was talking, I knew that was going to happen at some point. Someone was going to come flying onto the track and hit someone, hit the leader. I don't think he messed him up too much, but let's find out if it did. Here we go, green flag back in the air.
I really didn't think that would happen. Jordan Martin,
hello.
big slide job to get the second. Ryan Swan's going to lose 3, 4, 5 positions in the aftermath from it. He goes from second, maybe back to 8th or 9th position. Martin gets forced up the track. Clayton Johnson is second. Big stack up. Travis Beckner's in there. Jacob York, Jordan Martin, Travis Beckner. The 27 has a lot of damage. We're somehow still green through all this.
And we're 3, 4, almost 5 wide off of turn 2.
Carter
Up the
Coop.
nose. Carter Coop gets in the tire barrier, spins around. The caution will fly.
No, not
Once
yet.
more, and
Still green.
somehow it doesn't.
Bryce Senesac got spun. I don't know how we're still green. The battle is up at the front for the lead. Cannon got away from Johnson. Freiberger's up the third. Jordan Navarro has found his way into 4th position. I cannot believe Beckner's car is even still running, but a lot of right front damage on that 27.
I'm still trying to process what we just saw happen now. Absolutely things kicking off.
Contact for the lead there. Johnson and Cannon got into it. Freiberger's right there. The 225 is right on the rear of Cannon for the lead. Here comes a slide job attempt as Ed Robertson lap traffic could play a factor a little
3
bit
wide.
here.
3 wide off the corner. Fight for position. Cannon can't quite get to the inside because Freiberger is there now. Can he push the 225 up as Ed Robertson's lap traffic up ahead?
Clayton Johnson, that perfect for him. Freiberger kind of forced Jacob Cannon into a line he didn't want to run, and that gave Clayton Johnson the run he needed to clear for the race lead with 30 laps to go.
And Cannon can't quite get clear of Freiberger, who's still trying to get in this. He knows this is a good shot for him to get solid points. Slide job on the 93 for second, but he can't quite get it. Cannon comes back on the bottom and will slam the door shut in 1.
And Jacob Cannon's driving frustrated. He slammed the door shut on Freiberger, and Freiberger won't like that. Beckner's in the wall. No, not Beckner is in the wall. Ryan Swan got put in the wall. And the
caution.
Caution's finally out. Gosh.
Oh, boy.
I think Connor Hughes was the car I saw hit the wall hard, but that was not the yellow. Maybe chain reaction. See Hughes up there.
Oh, yeah.
Bam.
And there goes the bow into the 20. While we got this caution, we'll take a chance to see if we can find what happened there between Beckner and a couple of the other drivers there earlier with that near massive wreck a couple laps before this.
See if we can get it before we get the restart. That was wild. That involved maybe half the field. You had Beckner, Jacob York, Carter Coop got the worst of it. He's out of the race because of that. Jordan Martin's also out of the race because of that.
And that's where it started with him. That check up off the corner, got all over the berm, big stack up in the corner, and then Carter Coop actually wasn't here. I think it was right on this next part here where there were 5 wide off the corner. Tap from Martin into the Carter Coop, and bam, flying around.
Yeah, there's nothing really anyone could do there. Jacob York kind of starts this. He squeezes Beckner middle. I think he thinks Beckner's going to get behind Jordan Martin, then he doesn't. Causes that stack up. Then Martin and York make more contact. We're pushing 5 wide here, and there's just no room for any of that. And unfortunately, like the 7, Carter Coop just hits the wrong tire at the wrong time. And nowhere he can go as this is a completely different ballgame now. 30 to go. Clayton Johnson has taken a lead from Jacob Cannon. Freiberger has speed. Jordan Navarro is 4th. And even with a battered right front, Travis Beckner still in the hunt.
Well, let's see. This thing is far from over. Getting ready for the field to restart once more. We'll see this will be the final one. Clayton Johnson leading the field down to green after he took the lead away from Jacob Cannon. Cannon trying to see if he can fight back if he's got anything left in the 93. But how about Jaden Freiberger there for second place? Oh,
Beckner! Navarro! Beckner Navarro on contact. They somehow kept that straight. Jacob York gets all of them for position. Johnson first. Freiberger gets the second. They're not done behind that 97.
Well, they are far from over. Beckner trying to, you see him driving a little bit more aggressive here. Ooh, saw some contact there. Ryan Swan and I think a driver around. That was Senizak, or nope. They're still going, still green.
He kind of spun, but once again didn't bring out the yellow. And now Freiberger, I don't know if he has more pace than Clayton Johnson or what, but he's trying a different line, trying to make the bottom part of the track work. Just nothing doing. They have to run that top side, just hope to get an opportunity. Maybe a mistake from the driver ahead to pull a slide job. Cannon's dropped way back, not really in the battle for the lead anymore. Used maybe too much tire, while Jacob York found his way to 4th with a completely battered 97.
And he's still trying to hold on. Travis Beckner trying to make a pass on Navarro, who's keeping it way tucked down on the bottom. And he's probably got the best looking car on the track as far as damage is concerned. Maybe Freiberger probably second to that as he's trying to find anything he can to get past Clayton Johnson. He's been dying. He's been trying for a first win this season for so long. Jumps the berm. That's going to cost him a couple tenths of a second.
Beckner jumped the berm. York jumped it as well. They're all out of the groove. Navarro's going to try to get Beckner back. Jacob York might get passed by the 96 if he's not a little too careful, possibly. There is all sorts of chaos with the track as worn as it is, and more drivers are trying to push the limits, and they just don't have the ground. That's a frustration slider from Beckner, and it's not going to work.
Trying to get a 2-for-1, really only got maybe one out of that. For the lead, Clayton Johnson, Jacob Freiberger, they're side by side. Freiberger got the purchase point on the outside. Can he hold it? Can he get it around? He will. He'll take the lead.
Beckner threw another slider on York. They're going to be side by side, making more contact. Beckner's into the wall. I don't know. I can't believe Clayton Johnson gave the top up to Freiberger. Oh, this is going to get a little bit dirty at this point. Beckner, York, Navarro, Borgmeyer, Zabot just trying to survive whatever happens in the turn 3.
Oh, it's going to be bad. And there it goes. York around, upside down, and the caution will fly once more, and that's not what Freiberger wanted to see.
And that's Beckner's race probably done.
And fortunate end for his day. And he'll take it back to pit lane.
Poor Jordan Navarro. I knew there was going to be casualties from that. Jordan Navarro was one of them.
Oh boy, it will not be 6 in a row. We'll take a look and see what happened to Travis Beckner here. And it's really started with Jacob York and him getting into it.
Yeah, I think this is from the previous incidents that brought out previous yellows.
There's that slider there into the wall contact, and I think at this point York had enough contact there, head into 3 and 4 more, and that's really where it was.
Poor Jordan Navarro, Borgmeyer, I mean, what can you do? They backed off pretty far enough, and there's nowhere for them to go. And
Navarro keeping that car as clean as he could for as long as he could, and well, I got a chance to take a look and see how Freiberger managed to set up that great move. He caught just about the end of that.
Yeah, I was just really confused. He gets a good run on the top, and Clayton Johnson, I guess, figures maybe the top's not going well. He goes to the bottom of the racetrack, but Freiberger just gets enough grip in the center of the corner around the middle just to get to his outside. I was shocked he gave up the top, and now we're at single file restarts where it's going to be a tough pass to make back for Clayton Johnson.
Yep, and coming back here, it should be 1 to go. There they go. And I saw Freiberger, he's been liking that middle lane, and there's a little bit, as you see, most of the track's kind of padded down. You see right there in the middle of the corner, there's still just a little bit of loose dirt, and I think that's where he's been really liking to place that car, get that move done. Will be leading the field back to green. Can Jaden Freiberger get his first win of the season in a crown jewel event? We'll see what's going to be at stake here. Or can Johnson or Jacob Cannon upset the balance here? Here we go, back green. Freiberger leading them down. The 93 wasting no time. He wants to get back in this thing.
And this is for $50, not 80. Bounty is void because Beckner got turned with 3 wide for the lead. Contact, Cannon forced Johnson to the wall. You know Clayton Johnson's not going to take that. Bulldozes Cannon up the track. He's going to get both of them for the race lead. Unbelievably bulldozed Cannon, but he got Freiberger in the process. Cannon boots the 24. The 225 keeps the lead. Here comes Zabot. Borgmeyer in the background. Put a car in the wall. He put Connor Hughes in the wall. They're hitting each other back there, but the battle for the lead is about a 5-car race all of a sudden.
And now Freiberger has to try again to get past Johnson. He jumped the berm as, Johnson jumped the berm there. Not sure that was on purpose as the caution came out, but oh boy, who even got turned around? So Jacob York?
Looked like maybe Connor Hughes again.
Oh yeah, there's his damaged car. We'll take a look and see what happened to the 5.
It's been a rough night for Connor Hughes. That is... Oh, that was what I saw initially. Borgmeyer, I don't think that was intentional. He just kind of missed it himself and then just spun, maybe trying to stay off the 09 or whoever that was. It has been a rough night for the 5.
Take a look and see that battle for the lead there, and it is absolutely kicking off. You can tell everyone's just looking for as much grip as they can possibly find around here. There's Johnson, big slide on the 93, pushes him, uses him up the track, and Freiberger jumped the beam. And next time I see Freiberger an aggressive cut in front of the 93, and he got that back in turn 1.
Yeah, I don't know if Freiberger really deserved that at all, but it did not work for Jacob Cannon. It almost got Zabot to 3rd over the 93, but I don't think we're done making contact, that's for sure. I would argue Travis Beckner's not out of this because he is still lead lap.
I did see him jump back on the track, and I wasn't sure if he was on the lead lap or not, but he, as you mentioned, he definitely is. So, well, a couple of cars still looking pretty good at the moment, but we still got 17 laps and essentially a bounty lifted from $50 to $80, and you can tell everyone's definitely kicking it up a notch. There's Travis Beckner actually still sitting in the pits, getting that thing repaired as much as he can. I think he's going to be hoping for more and more cautions because then he can just sit in the pits and get the repairs.
And bounty was void after the 97 kind of took care of him. But
it was void.
what we were told. I don't think that could change, but I think it'd be pretty funny if Beckner somehow still won this race. The bounty void.
We'll see. We'll see what happens here. 50 down to $50 again, pending changes here. We'll see what happens. Jaden Freiberger, Johnson coming back to green. And there goes Johnson with the jump off and away. Green flag back in the air.
Much better restart that time for Clayton Johnson. Immediately going to rip the top. Jacob Cannon's going to throw a huge slide job. Clayton Johnson was ready for it.
And he avoided that. Now Freiberger and Johnson fighting out for second place. Can Johnson run away with this while these two battle it out for second? The 24 pushed to 93. Almost in the wall. Actually makes contact down the straightaway.
A little bit of contact. Freiberger kind of pinched him to the wall a little bit too much. That gives Freiberger second. We'll see if Jacob Cannon throws something back at the 24 and the 3. Can't quite get there. Zabo's there. Borgmeyer's up into a battle for the 5th position with Ryan Swan.
Working here to see if he can find anything, and Freiberger can come back to get back to Clayton Johnson to get a move done. Zabo in behind, trying to see if he can break the top 3. Big slide. You can see the slide's getting more desperate here. 93 doing the crossover.
That was really as clean of a slider as you can do at this point, but Cannon, just a good crossover there, but then ran the bottom, trying to get some grip down there. Couldn't quite make it work. Zabo's able to stay to the outside while the top 2 kind of pull away from this battle for third. Cannon tries to give it back to Zabo. Little contact, but Zabo clears the 93, but I think you'll see a last gasp effort, maybe slide up. Cannon doesn't quite have what he needs at this point. You wonder if he did wear his stuff out just a little bit too much.
And look at the lead that Clayton Johnson has over a second here as we head closer to lap 90. It's Johnson and Freiberger, Zabo, Cannon. This fight for third still going on. So 93 tries to find any sort of grip that's left on this racetrack.
Yeah, Clayton Johnson, he just wants green flag running at this point. I don't think Freiberger has what he needs to get that lead away. Cannon's doing everything he can to try to get third, but I think Zabo's even a little bit better with the damage he has. And it's really spread out with the top 7 or so. The battle right now is for 8th. As we got a spin, it's Lakatis. He spun into the infield, so we'll keep it green. But the battle for 8th is changed to Travis Beckner. 2 drivers with no spoilers going at it for that position. Well, ahead of them is Christian DeBoer, who's found his way to 7th.
Actually, he got up almost into the wall there. You see Travis Beckner there out there without a spoiler as they're really struggling in the back part of this field. Caution will fly within 10 laps to go. And who was that for?
I think that was for Lakatis.
Yeah, he had a spin earlier in the run to the apron, and I think this is the one that sealed the deal and brought out the caution. Was running on the inside and tried to gas it up. No grip left, and oof.
Hit the big orange tire. That's not the tire you want to hit.
Yeah, I was going to say no bonus points for hitting that particular one. Just damage to his machine.
Oh. Connor Hughes maybe went around back there again.
Yeah, he was struggling there. But there's one more chance now for Jaden Freiberger to try to catch up to Clayton Johnson.
Another chance. Just going to be a little bit tougher with a single file restarter. Maybe it'll be easier to time possibly, because it just seemed like Clayton Johnson, if it was double file, it just seemed like he was able to get away from Freiberger. But single file, this might give those guys a little bit of a chance to stay even on corner exit. This gives Beckner a chance to repair some more damage. He's hoping to at least get the spoiler off that thing.
Yeah, that'll be a big help. But with the laps winding out, you got to wonder if he's got anything really left, a car left to fight for the win. I may say not, but we never know what might happen here in the next 8 laps we have left to go with Clayton Johnson leading him down. We saw him fight tooth and nail, and really this stat doesn't really do him justice. It says he started in 7th, but had an EOL, so effectively started 18th, drove his way from the back to the front. And now here he is in the lead with under 10 laps to go. Can he hang on with Freiberger, Zabo, and Cannon charging in from behind? Single file restart.
Important thing here is got a relatively clean car. We got Freiberger, relatively clean car. Zabo has a pretty big amount of damage. And pretty much everyone 7th on back has a big amount of damage. But we'll see what these drivers can do for sure, as Beckner will pull back out on track. And it doesn't look like it's going to be his day unless something crazy happens, but it's up to Clayton Johnson to try to defend the pack.
There he goes with the jump off and away. Everyone trying to get a decent start. Ooh, I thought we saw Cannon almost hit the tires. Green flag back in the air here, coming to lap 93. Ripping the top side are the leaders, and here goes the fight for second. Zabo, he might have something here, and actually for 4th place and behind, Borgmeyer and Cannon.
Cannon has really, you can see how much he's worn his stuff off. It just seems like he has nothing left to fight with besides Hail Mary slide jobs, and now he's trying to go into defensive mode to keep the 4th position from Borgmeyer, while the battle between, not the modifieds, but everyone who's damaged still goes on. Connor Hughes trying to hold on to 7th. Christian DeBoer trying to hold on to 8th.
And Ryan Zabot here emerging here in the late coming of this race, was kind of out of the conversation, but has a car seemingly left for 3rd and maybe even 2nd place.
See what he can do. I mean, I think Jaden Freiberger in 2nd at this point. He's trying anything he can different from Clayton Johnson just to see if he can maybe force Clayton Johnson under pressure, maybe to make a mistake. Last time by, he was a little bit faster, running middle to bottom, but that time by, it just looked like he didn't get the rotation he needed through the corners. Clayton Johnson pulled away big time.
Looking through the rest of the field, not a whole lot else going on. A couple battles here, like you mentioned, the modified class in the back here, duking out for a position, but Clayton Johnson just extending that lead at the moment, and really the main battle is for 2nd place between Freiberger and Zabot.
I think Zabot maybe at this point might even be faster than the 24, but going to be really hard to make that pass without roughing the competitor up.
Freiberger trying to see what he can do. He can't really catch up to Johnson at this point. It's just mirror driving at this point here. It's come to 2 laps to go.
All he wants is no more restarts. He just gets to this white flag. That's all he needs. And it's been a crazy, frantic drive to get through here, but he's exactly where he wants to be now.
White flag in the air. 1 more lap to go for Clayton Johnson. There fought tooth and nail from the back to the front of the field. Got through all the main players in this race. And here he is sliding through 3 and 4, the 2nd crown jewel of the season. It'll go the Virtual 100 to Clayton Johnson in the 225 machine. He will win here at Lucas Oil Speedway.
What a drive through the field. It's been since the beginning of April since he won the Buckeye Blitz, and he's finally got another one under his belt. 2nd of the season for the 225.
Yeah, lighting it up through 3 and 4. And I'm sure he's one happy man here, $50 richer in the 225 machine.
178 was the gap to him, to Beckner, coming in tonight. A long way to go, but he shortened it up a decent amount there.
Yeah, and 26 laps left. I think that's close to the front. Not sure that was on purpose or not. I'm gonna say it probably wasn't, but we'll let the admins look at that. There's a couple burnouts here. We'll take a look at your finishing results here as he enjoys a well-earned celebration here. So Clayton Johnson getting it done. Jane Freiberger, the bridesmaid it seems this season, finishes 2nd place once more, the 24 machine. Ryan Zabot, hard-fought charge at the end, will get himself 3rd place. Jacob Cannon, surprising to see him drop down to 4th. He's going to be probably disappointed with that. What could have been. Casey Morgmeyer rounds out your top 5 with Swan. Travis Beckner back in 7th place. That's kind of impressive considering how damaged that race car was. And then it's going to be Christian DeBoer in 8th, Bryce Senizak 9th, and Joseph Swan in 10th.
Definitely, I don't know if these are congratulatory hits or not. He got hit by Ed Robertson at that time. Joseph Swan, good recovery, even though he got a lap down early. He gets a top 10 out of it, so not the worst thing for the 1 car. Ed Robertson, 11th. Connor Hughes, day to forget for the 5. He finishes 12th. Lakatis had some spins there, 13th. Jacob York had the scuffle with Beckner. Seemed pretty obvious. We'll see what happens there. He finishes 14th. Jordan Navarro, who was a victim of that incident, finishes 15th. He ran better than that tonight. Jordan Martin, 16th. A huge hit for him in the points to lose so many points to Beckner in a double points night. That's got to be his worst finish of the season, you would think. Carter Coop, 17th. Dalton Kane, also a victim of the tires, 18th. And Jacob Bell obviously wasn't here to start this race, but 19 drivers on the finishing sheet and a wild 100-lap feature.
Yeah, awesome job there. We'll take a chance to talk to our 3rd place finisher, Ryan Zabot. Hey, Ryan, SimTV booth, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we saw you fight hard, tooth and nail. You had a fantastic charge there at the end. Tell us how you managed to pull that off, because we didn't even consider the conversation right up until the last 20 laps.
I really don't have a clue. I went to the pits to try to fix some damage. I said I had 5 minutes, so I said it really wasn't worth it. And a couple guys in front of me got tangled up, and I managed to squeeze by. And I saved a little bit of tire at the first 40 or 50 laps. That may have been the reason I could hang on with a damaged car at the end. But yeah, I sort of drove a sloppy race. I know I got into Jacob. I think Jacob and Freiberger were racing hard right there in the middle of the race, and I think Jacob York had checked up, and I got into him and spun him, caused a caution, but sloppy there. And then again with Ryan Swan at the end, like think they were just parking it on the cushion. Like I couldn't gauge how hard they were going in, but nothing intentional. But I already apologize to those guys. But it was a good race, man. A weird and technical track.
Yeah, you know, we talked about a lot of drivers were saving very early on. When was, you know, for you, when was the go time to try to get back near the front, or was it just kind of as the cautions came out, you figured now it's time to kind of step on the gas?
Well, I guess it's probably lap 40-ish. I heard Dawson come over the radio say leaders are coming, leaders are catching the back of the field. So I figured, well, I couldn't really tell where they were. I just knew I didn't want to go a lap down. So I went there, and I think we got a caution lap 49 or whatever. Then it was just go from there, I think.
All right, well, Ryan, hard-fought victory. Well, I should say victory at least again into the top 3. Very solid late race charge. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. You'll have a good night.
You too. And with that, we'll move on to Jaden Freiberger. And Jade, I'm sure you were hoping to be talking to us at the end of everything. The last person to talk to with the win, but unfortunately, we had Clayton Johnson come back on you with a hard race charge. But we saw you up there pretty much the entire race in the top 5. Lewis was 8th. Walk us through how you managed to hold off a hard charge battle from everyone else.
Pretty much just saved for, 60, 70 laps or whatever, and then once we had a couple of them late race yellows, me and Clayton both decided it would probably be smart to try and push before Travis or any of the other guys started passing us.
Yeah, and right there at the end, we saw Jacob Cannon, especially with Clayton Johnson near the end. Did you really have any tire left to fight with him, or do you feel like you kind of ran out of tire to work with?
I think I had a decent amount until Cannon got by me on that one restart, and then once I had to try and slide him back, and I don't know, he's not really the easiest person to race against. Likes to just run into you, so kind of kills your tires.
All right, well, Jaden, wasn't a win, but another solid second place and a lot of points coming your way. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And last but certainly not least, we're talking to a driver getting his second win of the season, Clayton Johnson, our victor here for the Lucas Oil Speedway for the 100-lap feature. Clayton, how did you manage to get it done, especially with that EOL? It put you all the way near the back. Do you feel like, in retrospect, that kind of helped you to pace yourself?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I'm not so sure that EOL didn't help me a little bit. It just kept me on the bottom, kind of calmed down, just keeping the back tires from under me and just picking cars off as I go.
So we saw that too. We saw you a couple times up near the top, up and down below on the bottom. Was there any particular place you preferred, or was it just a matter of where the traffic was, where the cars were, and where you were able to get the passes done?
Yeah, I mean, for about the first 50 laps there, I was going pretty much anywhere where there wasn't a car. I knew that top was going to be good all night just because of how many laps I have around this place in the game, but I knew if I could roll a few cars on that bottom and kind of get a groove down there, I'd be sitting good, even with how fast that top was all night.
And also just wanted to ask too, do you feel like the cautions were a big factor for you getting back near the front, because you came out of nowhere and with a heck of a lot of speed?
Oh, absolutely. I think a few of them cautions may have helped me, and a few of them cautions may not have. I know a few times there I made a few mistakes coming from those cautions, but there was that one caution where I passed about 5 cars, and I was very thankful of that.
All right, well, Clayton, congratulations on the victory and the money coming your way. Definitely well earned, well hard fought. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, I'll be wrapping up interviews here from Lucas Oil Speedway. Fantastic battles across the order, and that race is really the race that kept on giving. We saw so many different drivers near the top of the order coming and going.
Yeah, and that yellow at halfway, it just really changed things. We had the different strategies with tire conservation, some drivers going for it, some drivers not. But the caution right at lap 49 pretty much changed everyone's mentality, it seemed. I mean, everyone pretty much treated it like a 50-lap race. And unfortunately, that showed with some of the moves we saw. Saw a lot of contact the last half of that race after a very clean first half of the race. And it definitely shook some things up for sure. But Clayton Johnson, I think, was getting through that field, caution or not. He had so much pace at the end of that race compared to everyone else. I mean, he pulled away from Freiberger. Jacob Cannon was not a factor at that point. And that's kind of what we feared. He'd be pushing his stuff a little bit too hard early, and it just didn't work out. But what a drive from Clayton Johnson from the back to the front. Pretty much started dead last and ends up in victory lane. in a pretty big race to do it, Virtual 100 here at Lucas Oil, a very key race to get a lot of points for him. So it was fun watching him get through the field. Obviously, like we said, a lot of contact in a lot of places, but his car was relatively clean by the end, and I think that's what it took to win this race as well, just keeping the car clean as well as the tires nice.
Yeah, and with that's going to be wrapping up coverage here from Lucas Oil Speedway and beginning the summer break for these drivers. Get a chance to cool things off. I'm sure a lot of drivers are going to have to cool some things off, cool some heads off till we head into the second half of the season. Racing will resume July 9th at Oswego Speedway for the Freedom 50, round number 13. Then in the next Crown Jewel race is not that far down the road. It'll be July 16th. Essentially when we return at Hudson Speedway, 100-lap feature over there. Definitely don't want to miss that out as we head into the second half of the year and this season. It's been absolutely fantastic to watch week in, week out. That championship battle is going to start heating up, I imagine, later on. But for now, I'll be wrapping up coverage here from Lucas Oil Speedway for the Virtual 100. My name is Finney Kona here with Connor Horn. Round number 12 will be wrapping things up. Thank you for watching.